Welcome to my channel. The story is about to begin.
Killing a Tier 1 monster, Skeleton Warrior LV1, gains 10 experience points and unlocks the corresponding monster encyclopedia. Please check it out yourself. Killing a Tier 1 monster, Skeleton Warrior LV2, gains 20 experience points. Killing a Tier 1 monster, Skeleton Warrior LV3, gains 50 experience points, plus an additional 50 experience points for killing a monster of a higher tier. After a fierce battle lasting over 10 minutes, Li brutally smashed several skeleton soldiers into piles of shattered bones. And after finishing the fight, he couldn't resist letting loose with a rant. Whoever said skeleton soldiers were easy to take down? Not only are they tough as nails with no obvious weaknesses, but they even coordinate their attacks and work together seamlessly. To top it all off, their swordsmanship is better than mine. That's just plain ridiculous. And on top of that, they can reassemble themselves and come back to life multiple times after being scattered. That's just freaky. You damn game designer, show your face. Is this seriously supposed to be a Tier 1 minor monster? It's no wonder he's so furious. These undead have really thrown him for a loop. At the same level, these undead are even tougher than the previous eye-eating beasts. If you don't completely drain the undead magic from their bodies, they'll just keep reassembling themselves endlessly. What's more, they have absolutely no weaknesses, only holy light arrows can deal them any significant damage. But fundamentally, those arrows still rely on your own energy to exhaust theirs. Until then, it seems no other method can stop them from continuing to fight. By comparison, he figures this little undead squad could easily slaughter hundreds, if not thousands, of newbie players without even breaking a sweat. They're making it so freaking hard to defeat these monsters. Could it be that they're afraid players will level up too fast? The official devs are really pulling out all the stops with this one. As he cursed under his breath, he activated the gathering technique, and once again, he ended up with a huge pile of materials, except that not a single magic core was among them, but to our surprise, we actually managed to collect an authentic piece of equipment. The Black Bone Sword. Grade, Black Iron. Equipment requirements, Swordsman, Mage Swordsman, Warrior. Durability, 200/200. Attributes, Sharpness 5, Moderate to low energy conductivity, Physical attack plus 50, Magic attack plus 45, Melee attack speed plus 5%. When using Dark-type supernatural energy, its power increases by 5%. When the blade strikes a living target, there's a 10% chance to inflict the opponent with the weakness status for 2 seconds. For those not wielding dark-based attributes, using this sword in combat will result in continuous erosion from undead magic aura. The damage received is influenced by the user's own strength. Note, this is the soul-bound bone sword forged by the spirit of a swordsman who once possessed masterful swordsmanship. It radiates the deadly necromantic poison emanating from the abyss of bones, utterly unwelcome to the living. Dropped equipment? Or maybe even black iron-grade weapons? Liu was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly seemed to understand. So it's not that all wild monsters drop finished equipment, rather, it depends on the type? Apparently, beast-type demons mainly drop raw materials, whereas humanoid wild monsters that already carry weapons and armor themselves have a certain chance of dropping finished equipment. That made sense, actually. Staring at the jet black bone longsword in his hand, Li pondered for a moment before an idea struck him. Could a black iron-grade weapon withstand the enhancement of both of his enchantment attributes? Thinking it over, he decided to give it a try right away. Using enchantment magic didn't require a furnace or hammer, it could be done anytime. Li immediately tried infusing this bone sword with both his water and dark elemental magic, but in the end, only the dark elemental magic managed to take hold successfully. It seems that black iron-grade weapons can't withstand dual-element enchantments either. Just as he was feeling disappointed, a dark, black tentacle lash suddenly lashed out from the shadows, silent and unseen, until it struck his holy light shield, sending ripples of light across its surface and nearly shattering it. Only then did Li realize he'd been attacked. He quickly turned around and swung his flame crescent blade toward the direction from which the attack had come. The crimson crescent blade shot into the darkness, instantly setting the attacker's body ablaze, and allowing Li Yi to clearly make out the monster's true form. In the blaze of fire, a hunched-over monster stood on two legs, its back covered with dense black tentacles, its arms replaced by two thick, fleshy tentacles, and its body adorned with dozens of grotesque growths. The creature was engulfed in flames, writhing in agony and letting out piercing cries as it twisted its 20-odd tentacles toward Li Yi, charging forward. As it ran, it kept plucking the flesh growths from its body with its tentacles and hurling them at Li Yi one after another, sending chills down Li Yi's spine. What's even more disgusting is that these sarcomas, like flesh and blood bombs, explode midair before they even hit the ground, sending out shockwaves and spattering filthy blood everywhere. As soon as the blood lands on the shield, it immediately emits a sizzling sound reminiscent of sulfuric acid corroding metal, causing the shield's durability to deplete at an alarming rate. Only the shadowy veil provided by Shadow Ward can effectively ward off this corrosive blood, which finally allowed Li Yi to breathe a sigh of relief. "Damn it! You ugly thing, stay away from me!" Li Yi sheathed his bone sword, cursing as he ran, doing his best to keep his distance from the tentacle monster while unleashing every possible long-range attack without hesitation. Rainbows of holy light arrows rained down in rapid succession, spears of the abyss pierced through the air, fiery sword blades and water-like sword beams intertwined and danced in the sky. Short spears, equipped with automatic retrieval mechanisms, kept returning and being hurled again and again, and dark, judgmental death rays descended from above, utterly ignoring any defense, bypassing all distances, and leaving no room for evasion, inflicting massive damage in one fell swoop. It must be said that this tentacle monster's strength was clearly far greater than that of the two previous monsters Li Yi had encountered. While its vitality has become even more resilient, its methods have also grown increasingly diverse. Faced with Li Yi's saturation-style attacks, it actually managed to frantically swing all its tentacles around in a desperate attempt to defend and block. Fortunately, most of Li Yi's attacks were energy-based, so this defensive tactic didn't really do much good. It could only take the hits passively. But what alarmed Li Yi more and more as he kept attacking was that despite enduring such a high-frequency barrage, this creature somehow remained standing tall. The various sword wounds, burns, through-and-through injuries, and even the severed tentacles on its body were all healing at an astonishingly rapid pace, visible to the naked eye. Even more surprising to Li Yi was that the creature actually managed to grab the short spear he had thrown at it, then suddenly reversed its grip and flung it right back, with a force several times greater than his own. This short spear had been meticulously crafted by Li Yi himself, enchanted with spatial abilities that allowed it to cut through dimensions. Not only could he hurl it out and instantly teleport back to retrieve it, but it could also bypass defenses entirely and deal damage. Who would have thought that such a powerful weapon could be exploited by the enemy simply because I lacked the necessary skills to wield it properly? The short spear slashed through the air, emitting a brilliant blue glow. It effortlessly pierced right through the shadowy barrier that had automatically risen in front of Li Yi and the holy light shield he'd been maintaining all along, striking him squarely in the shoulder and sending his body flying backward. Hiss! A searing pain shot through him, and Li Yi gritted his teeth, silently vowing to master a combat skill involving throwing weapons once this battle was over. At the same time, he reached out with his hand, gripping the short spear and selecting the recall command. The spear, which had just pierced his shoulder, vanished into thin air and reappeared instantly in his grasp, where he swiftly sheathed it away. Then, bursts of holy light flared up one after another as Li Yi activated his holy light healing skill on himself. The horrifying wound on his shoulder quickly began to ease the pain, stop the bleeding, and gradually heal itself. Realizing the short spear was now unusable, Li Yi drew the black iron-grade bone sword he'd just acquired. Holding both swords in his hands, he began swinging them wildly, unleashing a barrage of crescent-shaped blades, some red, some blue, increasing his attack frequency dramatically. In this way, the dual light and dark shield has refreshed once again, while the little sun above his head and the black swamp beneath his feet steadily replenish his magic, allowing him to keep dealing damage without pause. This time, he's not dodging, he's standing his ground and unleashing relentless attacks. This gives the tentacle monster a glimmer of hope. Bravely enduring Li Yi's furious barrage, it forces its way closer, raising two thick tentacles high in the air, ready to deliver a crushing blow to Li Yi. But Li Yi has been waiting for precisely this moment. Facing the grotesque monster charging straight toward him, he makes the first move. With a swift motion, the flaming longsword in his right hand slashes out, cleaving through the void itself and leaving behind a dark red rift in space. The tentacle monster instantly shudders violently, as half its body is sliced open. It's also pulled tightly into the rift by an immense suction force, utterly immobilized. Taking advantage of the situation, Li Yi steps forward, driving the bone sword in his left hand straight into the monster's chest, a strike so fast it seems almost frozen in time. The tentacle monster that had been struck instantly became somewhat ethereal, completely freezing in place. Even the wounds on its body ceased to heal. Taking advantage of this moment, Li Yi simultaneously wrapped both swords in the crisp, shimmering aura of autumn water. As he swung them at high speed, dozens of exquisite, icy cold, and deadly sword arcs bloomed in an instant, tearing the tentacle monster into 8 bloody pieces. Legendary Sword Technique, Dimensional Rift. Legendary Sword Technique, Time Stop Blade Cataclysm. Sword Blade Enchantment, Autumn Water. Water Elemental Magic Sword Technique, Brook Flower Dance. The Dimensional Rift restricts the target's movements while dealing continuous, high-damage strikes. The Time Stop Sword Slash deals massive damage and simultaneously neutralizes the monster's absurdly powerful healing ability. With both techniques working in tandem, Li Yi unleashes frenzied close combat output at full throttle, alternating between 2 different melee combo skills. In just a few seconds, he delivers several back-and-forth slashes, roughly over 100 blows in total. The intense, high-frequency damage poured into the monster within a short span finally reduces the mighty beast to a pile of shattered fragments, utterly beyond repair. A torrent of green light particles seeps out from the shredded flesh, seamlessly merging into Li Yi's body. A cascade of heavenly melodies rings in his ears. Ding! You've slain a Tier 1 elite monster, the Thorny Golem LV5. You gain 2,000 experience points, plus an additional 10,000 experience points for slaying a monster of a higher level. You've unlocked the corresponding monster encyclopedia. Please check it out yourself. Ding! You've leveled up. You're the very first player in this game to slay an elite monster. For a limited time, the drop rate is tripled, and the quality of items dropped by this elite monster is raised by 1 major tier. As an extra reward, you've unlocked the growable title, Abyss Hunter. Abyss Hunter, a growable title. Current level, LV1. When equipped, it boosts all stats by +1. Additionally, damage dealt to elite-level Abyss monsters is increased by 10%. The title automatically detects elite-level or higher Abyss monsters within a 1 km radius. After slaying 10 elite monsters, the title will level up. No wonder it was so hard to kill, it's an elite monster all along. Li Yi felt a surge of delight and quickly activated the gathering skill on the elite chunk of flesh beneath his feet. The next moment, a rich, blood-colored aura erupted, and out of thin air appeared a pile of materials and 3 items, which instantly materialized into Li Yi's hands. Collection successful. You obtained 25 2nd stage blood demon tentacles, 50 2nd stage elite demon's poisonous blood, 10 2nd stage blood demon marrow bones, and 1 2nd stage elite level abyssal demon core. Collection successful. You've acquired the purple, rare grade equipment, blood demon cloak, the rare item, essence of fleshing, and the core primary material, blood demon hard diamond. 3 items radiating a blood-colored aura suddenly appeared in Li Yi's hands, immediately obvious as being extraordinary. As items dropped by elite monsters to begin with, and boosted by triple drop rates and enhanced item quality due to being the first ever elite monster slain across the entire server, these treasures far surpass anything available in the beginner version. Indeed, after examining their stats, Li Yi was genuinely taken aback. Blood Demon Cloak Grade, Deep Purple Equipment Requirement, None Durability, 1000 automatically recovers durability by absorbing the blood of supernatural beings. Attributes, Physical Defense 350, Magic Defense 420, Constitution +20, Strength +5, Agility +5, Movement Speed +20%, Melee Attack Speed +15%, slows down recovery from injuries. Equipped skill, Blood Demon Armor, active. Upon activation, it forms a blood energy shield on your body with 5,000 points of armor value. While the shield is active, your physical attack power increases by 25%, melee attack speed rises by 25%, injury recovery rate boosts by 30%, and you gain the ability to heal through blood absorption. Each time you deal damage, you absorb a portion of the target's blood to restore your blood energy shield's durability. Once the shield dissipates, it enters a cooldown period lasting 10 minutes. Essence of the Flesh, a one-time use item. Effect: upon use, your physicality increases by 10 points, and you gain blood and flesh regeneration ability. When injured, your wounds will automatically heal at a slow pace until fully recovered, and you'll permanently become immune to the bleeding status. Blood Demon Heart Diamond, a precious gem hailing from the abyss of flesh and blood, brimming with pure blood energy. It can be used for crafting high-level potions or as a gemstone for inlaying into weapons. Its value is quite substantial. A special, deep purple tier piece of equipment, a cloak with no specific class? Is this the kind of gear that can appear early in the game? An item that instantly grants permanent flesh recovery ability after consumption? Seriously outrageous, Martha. But I love it! The only thing is, the exact effect of this blood-colored diamond remains unclear. It won't unleash its full potential until you've processed it using life-related skills. Just saying it's incredibly valuable, yet I have no idea what makes it so precious. And in the notes, it says it comes from the abyss of flesh and blood. What on earth is that place? Could it be some kind of large-scale dungeon? If only there were dungeons where I could reliably grind monsters without having to hunt them down all over the place, that'd save so much time. Thinking this through, Lie's heart suddenly lit up. He opened his character panel and after a bit of searching, finally found an unassuming little option labeled Monster Compendium. He clicked on it, and to his surprise, only 2 pages were currently highlighted, one titled Abyss of Flesh and Blood, and the other Abyss of Buried Bones. He clicked on the Abyss of Flesh and Blood page and discovered that it, in turn, had 2 sub-options, Common Monsters and Elite Monsters. Under Common Monsters, the entry for the eye-eating beast stood out. The description was incredibly detailed, covering everything from their social habits and elemental attributes to their combat styles, specific attack methods, relative weaknesses, as well as their minimum and maximum level requirements, and so much more. Click on the Elite Monsters subpage, and you'll find the Shu Lu demon, precisely the one you just defeated. Like the others, it hails from the abyss of flesh and blood. The information provided about it is far more detailed than that of the lesser monsters, stretching out into a lengthy passage that even lists this monster's subsequent advanced forms and lineage progression paths. Lie's head was spinning by the time he finished reading. He quickly jotted down only the key points before flipping over to the Abyss of Buried Bones page. There, only one common monster was highlighted, the ridiculously skilled skeleton soldiers wielding swords that you'd previously slain. Again, the information was incredibly thorough, even detailing their origins and how they came into being. This once again made Lie frown deeply. Why such excessively exaggerated attention to detail? After all, they're just a bunch of low-level little monsters. Is it really necessary to spend so much ink on fleshing out every tiny detail about them? It's as if these were truly natural biological races born within a magical, fantastical world setting. To achieve that so-called sense of realism, this game is painstakingly detailed, so much so that it's almost impossible not to poke fun at it. Lie shook his head and then noticed another key point. The NPCs from earlier often talked about fighting the abyss and things like that, and obviously, most of the monsters outside the city are actually various demons and fiends spawned from the abyss itself. But now it seems the abyss might not be just one single entity. Having read plenty of Western fantasy novels, Lie unsurprisingly came up with a hypothesis, or maybe this abyss is actually a multiverse, a collection of different realms stitched together. It's a pretty traditional setup, not exactly groundbreaking. But this title, now that's kind of interesting, Lie thought to himself. He immediately equipped the title he just earned after slaying the elite monster, the title Abyss Hunter, and instantly, a surge of power coursed through his entire body, dramatically boosting all of his physical and mental attributes. +1 to all attributes, awesome! Besides that, he's also gained a special perception ability. All he has to do is focus his mind and silently think phrases like elite monster or elite level abyssal demon, and this perception ability will subtly activate and radiate outward, scanning an area within a 1 kilometer radius. This perception ability is quite specialized. It can't detect environmental terrain or anything else. It can only search for elite monsters. If there aren't any within range, the sensation becomes utterly blank and completely useless. Take right now, for example, his special senses are pitch black, revealing absolutely nothing. Well, looks like there's no second elite monster within a kilometer around here. The one I just killed was probably a 99% rare find. Guess you could call that lucky, huh? After letting out a self-deprecating chuckle, Li Yi stuffed the blood-colored gemstone into his backpack, then turned his gaze to the 2 remaining treasures in his hand. With a firm squeeze, the blood-red lump in Li Yi's hand, still seemingly pulsating, suddenly shattered into a swarm of crimson light particles. As these particles fluttered wildly in all directions, they began to converge back toward him, seamlessly merging into his body. Before he could even register any reaction, he gave the blood-red cloak in his hand a vigorous shake and immediately threw it over himself. Tada! He felt absolutely stunning. In an instant, his stats skyrocketed, especially his physique attribute, which surged by +10 points thanks to the item he'd used, plus another +20 points from equipping the cloak. Suddenly, it soared past 32 points, a nearly 15-fold increase compared to his current meager 2-something points. But in reality, the actual boost was far more than just those 30 points. For a split second, Li Yi felt as if he'd transformed into Superman, supercharged energy, seemingly endless stamina, an incredibly robust physique, and then... plop! With one step, Li Yi stepped forward, crushing the ground beneath him, and promptly tumbled face-first into the dirt. Hey, man, what's going on here? Li Yi's expression changed in an instant. He gritted his teeth, trying to get up, but found that his body just wouldn't obey him very well. The heaviness he'd been feeling suddenly hit home, and he quickly realized a possible explanation. Could it be that my physical stats have skyrocketed all at once, throwing my base attributes way out of balance and making it impossible for me to control my body? Come on, man, it's just a game. Does it really have to feel this real? As he muttered these words, he took off the blood demon cloak. With the 20-point constitution bonus from the equipment gone, most of the heaviness in his body instantly vanished. Li Yi sprang to his feet in one fluid motion, did a few quick laps around the room, and confirmed that his mobility had almost completely returned to normal, though there was still a tiny bit of lingering effect. Only then did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. So, a roughly 10-point difference in stats is actually okay, huh? Then how high do I need to boost my other stats to equip the Blood Demon Cloak? Second tier? Third tier? But upgrading boosts all stats equally, and point allocation isn't under my control, so the gap between my constitution and other stats will just keep growing, right? So I'll have to find gear and items that boost those other stats too if I want to strike a balance? This is way too hard. Damn you, game designers, you're trying every possible trick to hold players back, aren't you? Just wait till the players tear you apart. Fuck! After letting out his frustration, Li Yi drew the long sword strapped behind his back, ready for battle. Although being held back in power was really annoying, the game itself was still fun, and he wasn't about to give up because of it. In fact, it had even ignited his fighting spirit and rebellious attitude. Li Yi muttered, "You're trying to hold me back, huh? Well then, I'll just have to find even more ways to cheat my way through this game." Now, leveling up by killing monsters has become secondary. Filled with burning determination, Li Yi started practicing sword techniques right where he stood, striving to master all the dozen or so sword skills he'd secretly learned from the Swordsman's Guild. Once he activates the reverse twin talents, those skills will double in effectiveness, meaning he'll effectively steal 20 or 30 sword techniques for free. With dozens of extraordinary sword techniques at his disposal, his combat power is bound to soar once again. Li Yi can't wait to see, with this level of skill, what monsters below the second rank could possibly stand up to him. He's determined to prove that no level-grinding player can ever truly hold him back. Emboldened by his newfound confidence, Li Yi began swinging his sword on the spot, channeling magic according to the key points etched in his memory, and started practicing while simultaneously refining his technique. At first, his movements were still awkward and clumsy, but as time went on, his actions grew faster and more precise, his footwork became firmer and steadier, and the aura radiating from his sword grew ever more powerful. Entirely, his movements were becoming increasingly precise and ferocious, at a pace visible to the naked eye. As time passed, the speed at which he swung his sword grew ever faster, gradually pulling him away from the original battlefield. Suddenly, from the surrounding darkness came the sharp, grinding sound of bones rubbing against each other. Several swift, skeletal figures charged forward with incredible speed, bursting into Li Yi's sphere of light and unleashing a coordinated assault, striking relentlessly at every part of his body with the blades they wielded. Just a second earlier, they'd been hovering at the edge of the illuminated area, yet in the next instant, their blades were already closing in on him, such was their astonishing speed. Swordsmanship technique, instant thrust. Yet instead of being alarmed, Li Yi felt elated. With a single turn of his feet, he raised the veil of shadow, erecting an impenetrable barrier that deflected their attacks. At the same time, he didn't fire any holy light arrows or abyssal spears. Instead, he simply swung his sword with all his might, slashing horizontally to separate their bone blades. Then, with a single upward slash, he unleashed a soaring vortex of blazing flames. A skeletal demon soldier, caught off guard and unable to retreat, was engulfed in flames. Its entire body soared into the air before crashing down with a thunderous impact. Flames flickered across its surface, dissipating the undead magic that had been coursing through its veins, momentarily leaving it on the verge of collapse. Instantly, the other skeletal demons closed in once more, their blades raining down from all directions, relentlessly striking the double-layered defense surrounding Li Yi's body and sending it into a violent, unrelenting turmoil. Yet Li Yi wore an expression of exhilaration, for in his ears had already sounded the long-awaited notification: "You have mastered the low-level sword skill of the Fire Elemental Swordmaster, upward slash, red sky flame coil. Your innate talent has been activated. You've gained an additional low-level sword skill of the Water Elemental Swordmaster, unnamed. Please give it a name. Upward slash, Azure Spring Surge." Turning around, he delivered another upward slash, triggering a roar like surging tides. The ground beneath him instantly erupted into a furious fountain of water, blasting two approaching skeleton soldiers high into the sky. He then continued to fight in this manner, maintaining a dual defense stance and relying solely on swordsmanship, as he engaged the squad of skeleton soldiers. He didn't even bother aiming for a quick kill. Instead, he simply exchanged sword techniques with them, taking advantage of their relentless assault to practice other sword skills he had stored in his mind. That's right, he was using these highly skilled sword-wielding skeletons as sharpening stones, honing his own swordsmanship while simultaneously practicing his techniques against them. Real combat was the fastest way to improve his skills, and his abundant magical energy and rapid mana recovery ensured that he wouldn't suffer too much damage even when surrounded by them. They wouldn't die until their undead magic was exhausted. They were superb swordsmen, capable of exerting just the right amount of pressure and danger, and completely devoid of fear. Unlike biological monsters, they'd never be tempted to flee at the first sign of trouble. There couldn't be a better sparring partner for swordsmanship than these skeleton soldiers. "Come on, little darling." Li Yi couldn't help but shout out loud in excitement. As the battle reached its peak, he even pulled out another black spine sword, one that had previously dropped during the earlier loot run, and charged boldly into the skeleton soldiers' coordinated defense line, wielding both swords in a flurry of wild, powerful slashes that unleashed torrents of blazing sword energy, alternating between fiery and icy blades. Judging by his ferocious stance, anyone who didn't know better would have thought he'd single-handedly surrounded and overwhelmed the entire group of skeleton soldiers. As Li Yi kept charging forward without regard for his own stamina, the skeleton soldiers gradually began to lose ground. Soon enough, several of them could no longer withstand the overwhelming damage and shattered completely into piles of bone fragments. Ignoring all of this, Li Yi showed no sign of relenting. So long as there were still standing skeleton soldiers in front of him, he'd never stop swinging his swords. Before long, the entire small squad of skeleton soldiers lay crushed beneath his blades. Li Yi halted his steps, stood motionless, and began twirling his twin swords in midair, carefully analyzing his movements from the recent battle, searching for any flaws or areas where he could improve. As he pondered and gestured, he hadn't even taken a few steps before another group of skeletons, far more numerous, rushed toward him, charging straight at him without a word. Li Yi's train of thought was interrupted, but he wasn't the least bit annoyed. Instead, his eyes lit up with excitement as he quickly equipped himself with 2 shields, then stepped forward boldly. "You're the ones who barged in here. I'm not going to hold back. Watch Little Master's wave-cleaving slash." "Damn it! I failed again, my movements still aren't right." "No big deal, I'll just keep practicing until I get it right. One more try. Let me give it another stab."